Hi everybody, my name is Brenda Pottinger from Pottinger Photography and I am based in Northern Kentucky. I'm excited to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, which are photographing styled photo shoots. So I'm excited to share some tips and hopefully some helpful information. I am an event geek. I love helping to plan events. In my family, instead of having fancy cars or going on big expensive trips, we love to entertain and host really great family events. So, for instance, at my graduation party, when I graduated from high school, we rented a tent for our backyard. I had a big, beautiful cake. I had flowers from a local florist, and I even gave away favors, which were forget me not seeds in custom painted terracotta clay pots. So, because my family is from pretty far away up north in Michigan and Wisconsin, they would drive into these big events, and it was always a great way to show our love through throwing parties, hosting events, and we kind of went all out. So it was a lot of fun. So I'm definitely an event geek. I love helping people celebrate some of the biggest events in their life, like weddings. And then I also like to think of myself as an artistic director. We put so much time and effort into creating these really cool events, and I love to see things go really right. So I think of myself a lot as an artistic director. You'll see that there's a lot of really important details that can kind of help make your event really awesome. Another thing is, when I was a kid, we talked to a newspaper photojournalist, and she came and spoke to our 4 H photography group, and she said, "What if I told you that you had the power to stop time and hold it in your hand?" And I thought, oh my gosh, that's the best superpower. I want to be a photographer. So we are truly storytellers and time travelers. So definitely keep that in mind as you are working on your events. So, what is a band nerd raised by a dairy farmer have to do with planning these really cool photo shoots? I'm a big believer in you get out of it what you put into it. My band director in high school and middle school always said, you need to go to bed satisfied with what you have accomplished, and that you couldn't have given anything more to what you did that day. And that's really a way to go to bed exhausted but happy and satisfied with what you did. So that is what being a band nerd and being raised by my dad, who grew up as a dairy farmer. He worked hard all the time, and no matter what, you had to put in the time and take care of those cattle, and milk the cows no matter what. So he definitely instilled a love of really great hard work and putting in the effort. I love weddings because every wedding celebration is different. If you are photographing a wedding, there are so many components. It is always walking into a different situation. Now, there's some key things that happen quite often, but I always say you have to be really great at architecture photography, photographing the church, the venue. You have to be great at still life photography, taking those flowers, the veil, the bouquet, and making it something really awesome. Fashion. I like to be inspired by different magazines like Vogue, Vanity Fair. There's a lot of photojournalism documenting the moments as they unfold in that slice of life. There's some commercial aspects, making the flowers look great for the florist and for the couple. You also have portraits. You want to make the bride and the bridesmaids and family look incredible. You often have children that are flower girls, ring bearers. We have group portraits, trying to make people look great together in a group. We have action shots like the dancing, the cake cutting, the bouquet toss, the garter. Those move really quickly. We have a lot of low light situations, dark churches where we can't use flash. And then we also have some really bright situations, getting married at noon in July on white cement. So the thing that I love about weddings can also be the most difficult and challenging is that you have to be good at a lot of different things. And so I challenge you to practice all of those different things so you can be really great at wedding photography. Wedding photographers are one of the only professionals who are paid to practice on their clients. Don't practice on a Saturday. Jerry Gionis shared this, and it's so true. We are tasked with documenting one of the most important days of a couple's life, so we don't get to redo that. So don't practice on a Saturday. Practice those core concepts on a different day where you have a little more leeway to practice. So, how do you practice for a wedding? So, one of the things that I hear so often from newer photographers is that they want to be able to practice. And you really can't practice on a wedding day. You can't say, stop, hold up the rings, hold on 1 second, I didn't get that shot. So, how do you practice? Now, maybe you want images for social media. What settings should I use? And I only have one camera and one flash. So, you need to build up that confidence. You need to practice. You need to know what you need to do. And so I'm going to say a styled shoot is a great chance to practice that. I also highly encourage you to know your settings. You need to be able to walk into a room and say, I'm going to start with these settings, and then I'm going to tweak and go from there. You also need to have more than one camera and more than one flash. We get that all the time. It's so important at a wedding. But I can second shoot for you for free. So we totally get that all the time. So if you want to second shoot for me, or for a lot of wedding photographers, there's a lot of things that I'm going to ask you for. First thing, I'm going to check your portfolio. I'm going to do my research and see, have you photographed a wedding before? How many weddings have you second shot before? I require our shooters to assist at an engagement session, assist a lot of times at a styled shoot, and then they have to third shoot for us before they can second shoot for us. There's a lot of training that goes very much involved into how we train our photographers. How many weddings have you second shot? Have you ever shot a wedding as the lead? There is no time on a wedding day to educate you. A lot of newer photographers want to be able to stop and ask a question, and there's nothing more frustrating than having someone ask why you're doing something a certain way in front of a client. So we very much are really picky about those who second shoot for us, and we require a portfolio, and they often have to assist for us, assist at an engagement session, assist at a styled shoot, assist at a wedding, third shoot several times before they can second shoot with us. Another great quote: when I feel like procrastinating, I just picture someone else getting to my idea first. It works every time. Kathy Delpaugh. Okay, so I'm just going to say something that I think needs to be said more in our photography industry. It is a lot of work. Anything that you do that is worthwhile is going to take time. It's like riding a bike or learning a musical instrument. You're going to take time, and it is going to require a lot of work. So, get over it. It's just like planning a wedding. Take each day, one day each week, for instance Monday, and stay off of social media and work on what you need to get done. Regardless of how you spend your time, time will pass anyway. So some of the benefits to doing a styled shoot. You can prove that your work is better than free. I mean, how many times have you seen on Facebook people who are offering to do their photography for free? So you need to be able to have a portfolio to prove that your work is better than free. You also want to be able to show what you really want to sell. A lot of times our couples tend to be a little bit more traditional in their style of photography. What if I want to show something that I want to later on be able to sell? A styled photo shoot can lead to paid commercial gigs. I think this is a great way to show your strengths as a photographer. You can also practice new posing or some of your crazy ideas or new gear. I love taking new gear out for a test run, and even though I won't take it to a styled shoot the first time, I might take it to another event. It's also a great way to learn to take your idea from your head to the paper to your photo. I think one of the things that you'll learn as you get to be a better photographer is that you can pre-visualize what you want your photograph to portray. So in the beginning, you're trying different things. You're like, what if I, change the f-stop? What if I change the ISO? How do these things affect what my final product is? And as you get better as a photographer, you really want to be able to pre-visualize what you want your idea and concept to become as a photo. And the quicker that you can do that, the better you're going to be able to help your clients get those photos that they really want. Another great thing is we all just need to lean in and refine our craft. That is something that it just truly sets us apart as the trusted expert. If we're continually getting better and better than ourselves every single day, you are really going to be able to find what you're really loving and how you can continue to grow. What not to shoot. Okay. So sometimes it's really fun to come up with concepts that you may never be paid for, but that you've always wanted to do. So I put together a photo shoot, which was actually a little bit harder than it sounds. We wanted to show what the difference was between someone who just walked into a room and photographed and someone who walked into a room and set the scene and made a difference. So that was really fun. I got to show how a scene could look different. And it really helps us refine what we're looking for on the wedding day. What I really liked about this was that I got to go to a newer venue and show what we could do with the space. And then that way on an actual wedding day, it was really great because I had a little more time to plan what I wanted to do. That in turn led to a top 10 grand imaging album. So that was kind of a big thing for us. We were super excited just to have another peer pat on the back. And so I love that that kind of helped us show the difference and the quality of our work. So one of my favorite things is I love the term goal digger. So not so much a gold digger, like crazy money hungry person, but I'm very much a goal digger. We really want to go from our idea in our mind to having an ability to show that in a portfolio, to being published and picked up by other vendors, magazines, online blogs, and then that in turn can lead to bookings. So extra credit. So couples love that you were published. It gives us that kind of street credit, I've had a lot of parents who, when it is time for their daughter's wedding, they pick up the local magazine and they go, oh my gosh, look at this talented photographer. I want the best. So it does lead to having a little bit more of street credit. And another great advantage too is you win the hearts of venues and other professional vendors. Who doesn't want really gorgeous images to be displayed of their venue, their florals, their decor? I also love helping new businesses grow. I love just being that cheerleader for the small businesses in the wedding industry. Artists, we truly can support other artists. Do you remember how hard it was to get your idea off the ground and how it could be really frustrating because you felt like you were the lone person trying to make this happen? What if you were to help and be a cheerleader for other small businesses and help them grow? Wouldn't that be amazing? Styled shoots can also help you connect with the right people. So maybe you've been dying to photograph this florist who you keep reading about. Or maybe you really want to work with this really great wedding planner because you know she'd be a great fit for your couples. What better way to connect with the right people? Another great thing is getting out from behind the camera. I am definitely an extrovert, so I miss that water cooler at work. I miss hearing about everybody's adventures over the week or weekend. So get behind, meeting with other people and into real life. And then my favorite quote is that you should hustle until you no longer have to introduce yourself. Now, I think that's a great goal for everyone. We want our work to speak for ourselves. We don't want to have to introduce ourselves. We don't want to have to say, hey, I've done this thing. Instead, what if our work precedes us and people can't help about how awesome our work is? And then we don't even have to do the talking for ourselves. I think that's always a really great goal. Some tips. So I really encourage you to find real couples with a real connection. That is always super helpful because they already have that lovey-dovey feeling. They can get close. You can joke around with them. Professionals you love or want to work with more. I couldn't agree with this more, because what if you have a favorite florist that you don't get to work with? You can showcase their work and help them get better clients. It also helps you know the basic settings and be ready to learn quickly. You can start from something that you already know how to do, something very basic, and then maybe you want to add something like a crazy extra light or a gel. This is the time that you can take a few minutes to show what you would like to do in the future. And be honest. I couldn't be more behind this. You know that it's not a real wedding, so don't represent it as being a real wedding. Definitely be honest. Show people like, hey, this is what I'm super excited. This is what I want to photograph more of. Look how fun this is. I do think that there are some people who try and pass it off as their own, original work and being a real wedding. I don't agree with that. There are some things that are honestly a lot easier to do when you have more time and don't have so much of a structured timeline as a wedding day. What I love to do is fine-tune posing techniques on real people. So for instance, I love Vogue and Vanity Fair, but there are some really weird poses in there. So being able to show on real people with real body types and to fumble through trying to explain this really weird pose, it makes it so much easier for me to go, oh my gosh, okay, this is how I need to tell people to get into the pose. Or you know what? Scrap it. It looks terrible on real body types. So it doesn't work unless you're a stick figure in Vogue. I love pretty little details. I can be a girly girl sometimes. Anything that the bride spent money on, I love photographing it. So any of those details like the rings, the shoes, the crazy details, maybe you always wanted to photograph a board game themed wedding, all of those details, you can actually take time and really make those unique. You can practice styling. So for instance, on a wedding day, your bride or your mother, the bride, might have ideas of how they want the veil to hang on the mirror, or maybe they only want pictures of a certain thing. You might not have as much time to get creative. And then one of the most important things is shooting for fun. Let's just get out there and shoot for fun. I don't think we do that enough, and I think that's really important for the growth. As we are artists, we need to be able to shoot for fun. Always budget more time. So, how on a wedding day, sometimes hair and makeup run a little late, people don't come on time, girls take a little bit longer to get into the limo, things do run late. And you know what? You're always going to want time for one more photo, which means probably about 10 more. So always budget extra time. Definitely build a timeline and share it with everyone involved. I think this is so important to have everybody on the same schedule and to ask them, hey, I made this schedule. Is there anything you need me to change? And I think it's important for everybody to be on board. Models often run late, so sometimes I tell them to get there earlier before we need them. And hair and makeup can oftentimes run late, so schedule extra time for that. I personally love to make a photo list of must-take ideas for publications and for vendors. Now, one of my favorite things about styled shoots is it's not as specific as a wedding day. But I personally love to write down all the ideas. So for instance, if it's a new venue, like maybe it is a bank that has been restored to be a wedding venue. So I'm excited about this really cool vault. I have to get that in a picture. I want to get a vertical or horizontal. So I might take time before my shoot to think up all these great ideas. But I also like to have a little bit of leeway for what I want to take. You want to make sure you have a ceremony area, a reception area, a dessert table, a bride and groom picture. You want to think about vertical, horizontal, wide, medium, tight, super tight, and lots of details. You definitely want to think about how you might have this published. Publishers, like blogs, they want lots of details and they want it to be as realistic as possible. And also think about how all these vendors are going to want to use these images. If you're trying to start out with a styled shoot and you've never had one before, maybe think about starting with a mini shoot, something easy to get your feet wet. Definitely shoot with an end goal in mind. What are you hoping to gain from this? Is it experience? Is it portfolio images? Kind of keep that in mind. Maybe you want to make sure it's a published event on a blog or on other vendors' blogs. Keep that in mind. Or maybe you just want to have fun and build your dream team. Like I said, I like to make a dream list, and I actually like to either sketch, pin things on Pinterest, or write out a list, and I make it my dream list. And then I put it in my pocket just in case I have a quick minute while the model's changing or the makeup's taking a little bit longer, just in case I start to run out of ideas. I also bring lots of extra clamps for dresses, because a lot of times we are borrowing dresses or tuxes or outfits, so we always need to clamp those, and sometimes we have to move those clamps. I also really like to bring an assistant. They're an extra set of eyes. They can watch for those clips if they get twisted and are now in the shot after you repose your model. I like to tell them, like, hey, let's look for exit signs, jewelry that needs turned around, or maybe they need to hold a light or reflector. I also bring lots of gear. Now, let's be honest, I bring lots of gear to everything I photograph. There's nothing worse than having a camera lock up. Well, guess what? I've got one right on the other hip, or I've got a backup in the car. You need to have enough gear that you can complete your shoot no matter what. We've had wedding days where, luck just was not on our side. We went through flashes and flash batteries and camera batteries, so you really need to bring a lot of different things. Now, something a lot of people say are like, hey Brenda, this is a free thing, it's for experience. Wouldn't people understand? Well, here's my question. Would a wedding planner refer you if you don't have what you need at a styled shoot? They probably wouldn't. Just like, what if that happened on a wedding day? You're showing them how great it is to work with you on a styled shoot or a wedding day. So make sure you can complete your job. Now, again, I love new gear. So, getting this really cool wide angle lens or being excited to use a fisheye, I think that's great. But I like to go to some place. We have the Crone Conservatory, which is in an indoor greenhouse in Cincinnati. That's so much fun. I actually go there first. I don't recommend having your new gear for the first time in front of other professional vendors. Instead, have it for the second time for your styled shoot. Another great thing that I recommend is always having a model release. So you do have permission to use these images for your portfolio and to be published, as well as your other vendors. If you're a member of PPA, they have some great model release downloads, so definitely check that out. If you're not a member of PPA, there are some model releases online, and you can also have a lawyer look through one for your particular state. Now, my biggest reason for doing styled shoots is that I want to be better than I was the day before. Now, that can get overwhelming as you kind of look around, you see other people improving, and you really want to be awesome all at once. Jerry Gionis, another great thing that he said is we just need to be better than ourselves, one day at a time. I also love to come back from a photo convention or a seminar and practice maybe some really cool things that you learned at the conference. Maybe you decided to photograph through plexiglass. Maybe you decided to build a cardboard dress or use a fog machine. That's a great chance to practice some of those cool things. And you know what's fun too is the cake bakers. Guess what? They go to these conventions too, and so they want to be able to show what they can do. Now, another great tip that I give to a lot of photographers about weddings is that you should definitely get the safe photograph. For instance, dancing the first dance, you want to get some great vertical, horizontal, tight, wide, safe photos of the first dance. And then maybe get some of those weird ones. Maybe something that pushes the boundaries. Maybe something that focuses on their hands or the mother crying in the background. So push the boundaries a little bit. Get that safe shot, but definitely push it a little bit and get creative. Do something you wouldn't normally do. And definitely, I love to be inspired by magazines. Now, I'm not just talking about wedding magazines. You want to look at Vogue, Vanity Fair, Teen Magazine, any of those, just to get some out there ideas. If we're just looking at wedding magazines, we're looking at trends that are already happened. Let's think towards the future. Okay, also practice on what not to say. I think I've only made this mistake once, but I said oops when I had a flash fall. That is not a good thing to instill confidence on a wedding day. So sometimes it's great to learn what not to say. Also, think about asking for permission before adjusting or moving your model. This is a great one. I like to say, hey, your jewelry is twisted. May I move that a little bit? Do you mind if I touch your hair? Do you mind if I move this? It's a great way to give confidence to your model and to practice on saying, hey, how does this work? And you know what? The model, she just wants to look great. Or the male model, he just wants to look great. So try telling them what works and what doesn't work, and you'll gain their confidence. So be honest and really just help build their confidence. I love that. I also like to personally have a say in hair and makeup. So for instance, I don't like glossy makeup, and I tell that. I don't want sparkles. I don't want things that are going to reflect back in the camera and look like a mistake. So you want to be there in time to answer questions and provide examples of how you want the hair and makeup. And allow a little bit of extra time for that too. I also personally like to help choose my models. One thing to keep in mind is tell your models that their current photo, there can't be any changes to their hair, tattoos or things like that. You want to see them, how they're going to look for the photo shoot, and you want to see them in the dress, if at all possible, or outfit. I have found that you can get a female model in like 10 seconds, but it can be hard to get a guy model often. So I prefer to work with girls or women that already have a boyfriend or a husband, that they're in a relationship, that they can kind of drag along because they want to do this. Another great tip is doing a walkthrough. One of my favorite things is to include newer venues, and a lot of times they look very different on cell phone photos. So do a walkthrough, get some great ideas that way. Pick a date based on the venue that you want to work with and your key players. I like to show my key players and wedding professionals my theme and my colors, and I usually do a little bit of a vision board, but then I let them have a say in what they want to show. Now, Cincinnati I love, but we can get a little bit stuck in our ways, so a lot of couples want exactly what their friends had. So instead, I love that we can show them something that they're going to want to have that might be pushing the boundaries. So I tell my vendors, hey, you're doing this for portfolio images. What would you love to show couples? What do you need in your portfolio? And they are going to love that. I also like to be really respectful of people's time. So I like to pad a little bit of setup time and tear down, and I also like to have extra hands on deck. So maybe that's someone who wants to assist you on an event. Maybe it's a kid in 4-H who needs extra service hours or things like that. So definitely bring extra hands and be super respectful of people's time. Be realistic of editing and publication time frames. Now, I always like to have an end goal. Maybe I'm going to try and get this published on an online blog. And a lot of times, a lot of those online blogs have to be the first person or the exclusive person that get to show those photos first. So be realistic of how long it's going to take you to edit the photos, submit for publication, and when you think that your other vendors will be able to use the images. And that can take anywhere from a couple weeks to several months to half a year. So kind of know where you want to submit and have ideas of how long that might take. I also really like having a vendor list with all the cell phone numbers. Definitely, I tend to work with vendors that I know and trust, and maybe some newer ones that I'm willing to give a smaller role to, because sometimes vendors will disappoint you or bail out. Now, planning a styled shoot is like planning another wedding, so it can be a lot of work. So, I'm sure you have a few questions. You can definitely find me at pottingerphoto.com. My email is info@pottingerphoto.com. Definitely feel free to post some questions. Let me know. I'm also going to be talking a little bit more about this subject at my Super One Day on October. I believe it's Tuesday, October the 8th. So hopefully you will come join me in Newport, Kentucky. And hopefully this gave you some great ideas for approaching a styled photo shoot. Well, thank you guys, and I encourage you to have a great day. Start thinking about some really creative styled photo shoots and how that can help both you and some other wedding professionals in your area. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye-bye.